5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition.
Welcome to our live coverage of SpaceX's Demo 1 mission. If you're just joining us, Dragon has performed its final departure burns from the International Space Station and is on its way back home to us.
现在大家看到的画面来自现在大家看到画面来自SpaceX 的控制中心，然后现在大家看到画面，左边是在休斯敦的控制中心，然后右边是SpaceX 的控制中心。这边主持人在介绍今天的情况，就是这是龙飞船龙2飞船的演示任务，这次任务飞船上并没有搭载航天员。
procedures and system checks.
That's right, and then the spacecraft autonomously undocked from the International Space
今天早些时候
11:32 p.m. Pacific time, just yesterday on March 7th.
今天早些时候
and then it began a series of departure burns to move away.
早些时候飞船自动分离国际空间站，然后之后它执行了一系列轨道机动动作来远离国际空间站。
All the way to that splashdown, which we're targeting for 5:45 a.m. Pacific time, with Dragon scheduled to splash down about 230 statute miles east of Kennedy Space.
然后它之后进行的动作是进行一次降轨机动，返回地球，然后最后的降落时间是太平洋时间5点45分。
In the Atlantic, it completed its mission back on March 13th, 1969. So a pretty big day and a pretty big historical note here. Unfortunately, due to a communications blackout, we're not going to be able to show you every step of Dragon.
然后因为
we're going to be bringing you live status updates as it goes.
因为中间通信会遇到黑障的问题，所以没有办法带来全程的直播录像，但是会尽量带来更多的，比如说降轨机动，还有推进舱的分离，还有回收的画面。然后返回的步骤，第一步，龙飞船会抛弃掉它的推进舱或者叫货舱，就是后面的圆柱形不加压的部分。
For the mission, but we are going to be listening to the flight control teams. Again, we have one here.
然后再一次说，因为这次没有办法一直盯着，没有办法一直提供视频信号，但是我们会一直关注现场的指挥中心的口令。
Now, if you've been following along so far this morning, you might have seen us on the earlier webcast. Last night, this morning, it's hard to tell what time of day it is at this point. But you saw Dragon complete a series of burns.
如果大家今天看了早些时候的直播，大家会看到今天早些时候龙飞船离开国际空间站之后，执行了一系列的点火机动。这些点火机动主要是为了让飞船远离国际空间站。
After that, we'll have a pretty exciting deorbit burn and a splashdown. So we're looking forward.
然后再往下，大家等待的是龙飞船的返回舱跟货舱分离，然后再往下是点火之动，反推点火之动，然后再往下就是非常激动人心的降落过程。
So that'll be the next major milestone coming up, and then that deorbit burn, which we'll go through all of those times in just a little bit. But it's going to be about a 15-minute firing of those thrusters on Dragon, and that's just basically going to take it out of orbit. So it's going to fire these thrusters until that trajectory is basically pointing it right back down in the ocean, in the Atlantic, where we're landing a spacecraft built for humans for the first time in 50 years. So this is going to be a really exciting morning. And like I said, we'll be bringing you some pretty great views. The sun is up already over on the East Coast, so we'll have a nice daytime splashdown.
As someone who has seen this specific vehicle get built over the last couple of years, it's pretty incredible to, like I mentioned earlier in today's webcast, to actually see the astronauts on board the International Space Station floating in and out of the capsule. as they were opening the hatch, and that was very exciting. And then upon the departure burns earlier, to see the imagery from the station as Dragon was leaving, it was just incredible. We had some amazing shots, and we've seen the artistic renderings for a couple of years now, what it would look like when Dragon was on station, and to finally see it was just a wonderful moment in terms of those of us that
听不懂其实没有什么关系，碰到重要的事情我会翻译的。然后因为刚刚他们基本上都是在闲扯回顾这几天他们拍到过的一些东西，所以就没有照着翻。现在大家关注我们直播间的不要走开，不要走开。因为再往下的1个半小时，大家会看到整个龙飞船的回收全过程，包括在轨道上的点火制动，返回舱与货舱的分离，以及返回舱经过大气层再入大气层和溅落在太平洋。刚刚主持人说的溅落在太平洋上的预计时间，算了一下是北京时间的9点45分。
And eventually the deorbit burn.
Yeah. So in terms of SpaceX history, this demonstration mission is incredibly important, as it's, like I said, the demonstration of our crew program. Interestingly enough, the Dragon spacecraft is hanging behind me here in Hawthorne, California. SpaceX
对于 SpaceX 的历史发展来说，这次任务也是他们非常重要的一个任务。就是这是对他们载人能力的一次检验，是他们载人项目的一部分。然后非常有趣的一点就是。在他们后面有一个返回舱，这个返回舱是之前第1版的龙飞船，也就是货运飞船的货运飞船第一次执行 demo 任务，也就是测试任务的时候，用的那个返回舱。然后就非常有趣的一点就是他们现在在直播载人版飞船的第一次演示任务，然后正好在他们的后边就直接悬挂着一个货运飞船，执行过货运飞船演示任务的返回舱。刷 pull up 的是什么鬼？弹幕刷 pull up 的是什么鬼？因为
I wouldn't want to be involved with it because that's a lot of G-forces, but it'll be really important for us to be able to demonstrate the ability for the capsule to leave the vehicle in an urgent need to do so. So we're all looking forward to that test flight, as it's also something we've been working towards for the last couple of years, and yeah, that should be coming up in a couple of months here.
Yeah, and that'll be the second abort you guys have done, because you did a pad abort test already with the Dragon spacecraft. So basically just really putting the vehicle through all of the paces, all of these different abort tests, missions like this one right now, all ultimately with that goal of sending humans to the International Space Station on a Crew Dragon.
Yeah. Something else really interesting about today's mission, and in fact the commercial crew program going forward in terms of SpaceX's approach to landing the capsules, we are landing them in the Atlantic, like we mentioned earlier, whereas the cargo resupply mission Dragon capsules have all landed in the Pacific. So today is really exciting.
好了，然后。按照主持人刚刚提到的一点，更正一点。这次的载人型龙飞船是溅落在大西洋。这次载人型龙飞船溅落在大西洋，然后之前的货运型龙飞船是溅落在太平洋中的。这次换了个海，不落太平洋了，改落大西洋了。然后刚刚主持人回头是因为他说控制中心，他是看一眼控制中心的状况。这边的话，按道理控制中心的外边应该会有很多人围观。给大家现在看到的画面就是控制中心的 SpaceX 的控制中心。在玻璃墙的这一边是负责控制的人员，然后玻璃墙的后面是SpaceX 过来围观这次回收任务的。围观群众。
That's broken out across a couple of different areas. One of the more interesting ones, and one of the ones NASA's really keen on, is it's bringing back what we call utilization, so some science samples. It actually has 2 bags. They're basically like coolers on board that are packed with these cold bricks that we're able to put science samples in. So the ones that are coming back home today using some of the human research projects on board the International Space Station is, we like to say, the astronauts are experiments themselves. We're always poking and prodding while they're up there just to see how the human body changes and reacts in microgravity. And a lot of the samples from a couple of those projects are coming home on Dragon today. Also bringing home a couple of radiation monitors, and one thing that our program manager, Kirk Shireman for the space station program noted, it's also going to have a fan pump separator on it, and that's actually a piece, it's a piece of the spacesuits, the EMUs, the extravehicular mobility units. I'm from NASA and we still use way too many acronyms, and it's a piece that actually failed on orbit some time back, and they're bringing it home to take a look at it. It was since
现在刚刚主持人在介绍的是这次任务会带回来的载荷，就是带回来会包括一些实验的一些样品，然后还有比较有意思的一点就是有一个小东西是一个在舱外行走的时候会用到的设备，但是这个设备在国际空间站上面坏了，所以他们把它用龙飞船带下来之后看一下这个东西到底是什么状态，到底出了什么问题。怎么会有人说假电脑没有主机的？你们不知道一体机是什么东西吗？没有领导讲话，这个确实不太有领导讲话。领导讲话，我想想在哪儿，就是欧洲那边，欧空局是有，欧空局跟包括中国是有的，好像就这两边的发射是比较会有领导讲话这个事儿，然后美系那边的发射不太有。好，现在喜欢大家可以关注一下我们的直播间。现在跟大家带来的是第2代龙飞船第1艘试验任务飞船返回地球的直播。现在直播已经开始，我们现在在等待飞船返回地球执行的第1步动作。现在没有办法确认这步动作会不会有视频信号传回来，但是可以确定的是，在控制中心一定能听到控制中心的相关的口令。包括这次的任务，这次任务过程关键的几个节点包括，飞船的返回舱和货舱分离，以及飞船的降轨机动，还有飞船载入大气层和在大西洋上着陆这几个环节。现在的话，直播已经开始有10几分钟了，按道理应该就在这几分钟的时间会会向飞船发出返回舱和货舱分离的指令，然后最终预计降落在大西洋的时间，按照刚刚主持人最新的说法是北京时间的21点45分，但是实际上这个时间可能没有那么精确，而且降落之后还会有回收的过程，所以咱们的直播很可能会持续到更晚一点的时间。现在大家看到的画面是在美国加利福尼亚州的 SpaceX 美国太空探索技术公司的控制中心。关于 SpaceX 还是 NASA 控制的，这个是 SpaceX 控制，就是要涉及国际空间站的才会涉及到休斯顿航天中心那边的控制，然后在今天的早些时候，今天北京时间下午的时候，这艘飞船已经离开了国际空间站，在它离开国际空间站足够远了之后，这个事儿实际上就已经跟国际空间站和休斯顿那边的控制中心没有什么关系了，就完全是SpaceX 在加利福尼亚的，现在大家屏幕上看到的这个控制中心在参与控制。然后今天的 这个控制中心外面的围观人员确实相对来讲不是那么的多。在之前一些比较重要的发射任务的时候，整个后面这基本上是站满了人的状况。现在的话，看着人围观群众确实有，但是没有像那种众猎鹰啊，或者是包括这次首飞没有那种没有那种特别壮观的场面那种感觉。国际空间站的退役问题哈，国际空间站呢现在的服役时间是2024年，之前的说最开始说是到2020年退役，然后后来现在延寿到2024年，而且这个事儿很难说，就是难说它到2024年前后会不会再继续往下延寿，因为不弄国际空间站的话，到时候就只剩一个中国的空间站，但是那个空间站体量又比国际空间站小了不少，它们的区别就是400多跟60多米区别，这个体量差的其实不小。美国现在是白天，没错，美国现在是白天，现在的时间，北京时间现在是8点47分，然后美国的东部时间是早上7点47分，所以现在美国应该是一个刚早上的状态。第一排第二个玩手机，那为什么我没看到？你从哪边数的第二个玩手机？大冬天的穿短袖，大冬天的穿短袖，你是没出过国吗？是那个，你没发现外国人穿什么都有吗？尤其是室内有暖气的地方，20几度，穿什么都有。没出过国啊，穿什么
？So right now we're waiting to hear for that trunk separation again. We are expecting to get that call just on the internal nets any moment now. That'll be the next major milestone, and then it'll be on to deorbit burn.
Exactly. So we should have that.
然后我们现在在等待控制中心的口令。
We wait for trunk separation. This is the last thing that Dragon has to do before it is able to re-enter the Earth's atmosphere and splash down.
我们现在在等待控制中心关于货舱跟返回舱分离的口令。
Is going to be coming home. The other stuff that Dragon's going to do before it does that final re-entry is close that nose cone, and we'll get through a little bit of that soon, but. Basically, that nose cone is going to protect that top part of the Dragon spacecraft, the docking adapter, and also the guidance and navigation and control sensors. So that's one of the last major milestones. That's another kind of departure from the cargo Dragon, which that nose cone gets jettisoned during the launch phase. But with Crew Dragon keeping the nose cone all the way through,
现在这边男主持人在介绍的是龙飞船前面的鼻锥，就是在之前的货运版飞船里面，这个鼻锥是在发射的过程当中抛弃掉的，而现在的载人版飞船这个鼻锥是会跟着飞船一起回来。然后关于这个。
And I think we just heard trunk separation.
All right. So hopefully we'll be able to bring you visual here.
现在已经确认了货舱已经分离。
Yep. So next up is going to be the spacecraft using some forward thrusters to perform the deorbit burn. This is
现在已经确认货舱分离。
major step because once that deorbit burn happens, you're
然后下一步是降轨机动，或者叫做制动，或者叫刹车，或者叫减速。
Last about 15 minutes once it starts. So we're going to again continue to stand by. This is kind of the calm before the storm, if you will, where we're just waiting for things to really get into motion. Dragon's going to
然后这次点火机动会
takes about 45 minutes or so until it's
这次机动会有15分钟的样子，然后在这次点火制动完成之后，一直到它溅落在海面上，中间会大概有45分钟。 好了，再重新整理一下信息。刚刚根据现场的口令已经确认飞船的货舱跟返回舱已经分离。其实美系那边应该叫指令舱，反正都是一个东西，大家理解就好，理解精神就好。所以咱们就一直叫返回舱了。然后返回舱跟货舱分离之后，再往下接着是，再往下接着是，那个叫什么，就是点火制动的环节。然后点火制动结束之后，整个这个事情基本上也就确定了，因为它不再有什么其他的机动能力了。点火制动之后，再过45分钟，就是飞船会降落在海面上。所以我们现在就是在等待下一步的口令。然后刚刚主持人那边说这个。货舱分离的过程只听到了口令而没有看到画面，非常遗憾的。希望之后稍后，能给大家带来其他的画面。怎么连个画面都没有？确实没个画面有点尴尬，但是这个事儿嘛，就是在太空中通信始终是个麻烦。而且包括 SpaceX， 其实他们自己是没有通信网的。SpaceX 从来都是租别人的通信网，比如说租军方的这种空军的通信网。所以他们的这个通信保障呢，也就是大概其，并不怎么样。没有画面全靠想象，但是今天晚些时候。
And so again, right now we're just standing by for this deorbit burn to start. We are expecting it to start in about a minute or so.
现在的时间距离点火制动开始，还有不到1分钟的时间。然后这一次点火会持续大约15分钟。
That was the last thing Dragon needed to do before it is able to re-enter the Earth's atmosphere. And like we said, that'll be about a 15-minute burn, and then we will have parachute deployment and splashdown after that. So, like Dan said,
然后在点火制动之后，再往下最关键的事件就是打开降落伞和着陆。
Be getting confirmation of the deorbit burn in a couple of seconds here.
That's right. And once the deorbit burn is complete, it's just about, I'm trying to do quick math in my head as I look at everything, but it's just about 40 minutes or so until Dragon's scheduled to be back down in the water. So it's a pretty quick ride from being in outer space to being right back down in the ocean. And we just
had confirmation of the deorbit burn. So like we said, this will last about 15 minutes.
现在已经收到确认，点火制动已经开始。这次制动会持续大约15分钟。
Atmosphere is going to get a little toasty, but we're excited for this to happen as it is the next step, the next milestone.
然后飞船在载入大气层的过程当中会有一些这种烧灼的痕迹，但是我们仍然非常激动，因为这是这对他们来讲是一个里程碑性质的一个事件。
And that's going to have all of the SpaceX recovery teams who are responsible for actually going out and picking the capsule.
现在大家看到的这一艘船就是
view of the Go Searcher. This is actually a camera view from one of the other boats.
现在大家看到的这艘船就是等一下前往着陆地点回收飞船的那艘船，然后大家看到的画面就是来自红叶海域旁边的另外一艘船。
The SpaceX people to go and recover the capsule, and then the NASA people typically also bring along the flight docs and the nurses. Anybody who's ever seen a landing in a Soyuz over in Kazakhstan is familiar with that. Once the crew comes home, after about a 6-month period, it's important we get a quick medical check out with them, just take the vitals, make sure they're doing okay, and help manage as they readapt to Earth's gravity for the first time in, up to 6 months or longer. So everyone will be on one boat, but for today we do have 2 boats, so we'll get some additional views, hopefully, from those different cameras as we get to watch Dragon come down. But for now, we are in that deorbit burn, so we got a couple more minutes until that is complete, and then we're one step closer to Dragon being back.
Yeah, so while Dragon is re-entering the Earth's atmosphere, we're going to pause for a few minutes until the deorbit burn completes. So be sure to stick around, and we'll see you in a few minutes.
欢迎大家关注我们的直播间。现在龙飞船的状态是它正在进行点火制动的过程当中， 这次制动已经在几分钟之前开始，它将会持续15分钟，所以现场的主持人会暂停一段时间解说，一直到点火制动完成。然后在制动结束之后，飞船再过大约45分钟就会着陆在大西洋的海面上。刚刚大家看到那艘挺小的船啊，就像弹幕里说的渔船一样的船，就是去捞飞船的，去捞飞船返回舱的。现在大家看到的还是在美国加利福尼亚州的 SpaceX 的控制中心的画面，实时画面。这次返回的这艘龙飞船，第2代龙飞船是美国 SpaceX 太空探索技术公司开发的，最新型的载人型号宇宙飞船。然后这艘飞船的话是在上个星期第一次首飞升空，然后现在它已经基本完成了这次的任务，已经在今天北京时间下午的时候与国际空间站分离，然后现在马上准备返回地球。现在它已经在点火制动的过程当中，制动完毕之后，它的进气点就会在地球大气层内部，然后这样的话它就可以利用大气层完成全部的制动，损失掉全部的速度或者叫能量，然后就可以安安稳稳的落在地面上。不对，严格来说是在大西洋的海面上，这是美国的习惯，就是喜欢把飞船落在海面上，而不是地面上。那现在大家看到的画面还是美国加利福尼亚州的控制中心 SpaceX 的控制中心。我们在等待点火制动这个过程的完成。这个点火制动总共会持续15分钟的时间。其实呢，怎么说呢，这个可以说他们是用了一个非常小的推进器来干这个活吧。因为之前一般来说，这个制动的过程大概都是几十秒的样子。比如说，航天飞机的那个，它有2台还算挺大的轨道机动发动机。印象中是10几秒就可以完成这个降轨机动，然后包括飞船的话，也就是几十秒的样子。而这次的话，需要持续推进15分钟才能完成减速的话，持续推迟15分钟才能完成减速的话，这个怎么说呢？确实这个推进器可能小了点，可能他们确实没有给这艘船装那种比较大的轨道机动用的推进器，而因为确实也没有什么必要，因为这艘船呢，它设计的目的也就是在地球跟国际空间站之间往返运人，只是这么样的一个简单的需求，不需要它有非常大的轨道机动的能力。现在大家看到的画面是在大西洋的海面上有2艘船。远处的那一艘就是去捞飞船的，然后近处的这一艘，如果刚刚没有理解错主持人说的那句话的话，它应该是做通信保障还有领航的。飞船掉哪儿？飞船现在还在天上，还没掉下来。飞船可能还要怎么说呢？可能还要50分钟吧，可能还要50分钟才会掉下来。所以大家不要走开，整个这个过程是连贯的，中间会有一系列事件，大家不要走开。在未来的1个小时，大家将会看到，这艘飞船载入大气层，打开降落伞，以及降落在大西洋海面上，以及，如果运气好的话，被这2艘前往回收的船捞起来。但是不知道这次着陆的精度怎么样。如果精度高的话，应该是当场就能捞起来；如果精度不高的话，船可能还要跑一会儿才能跑到着陆地点。现在说到土星5号，土星5号没错，土星5号确实是算大小还是最大的，但是这么大火箭用不上吧？就是这么大的火箭太贵了。而且很少有东西需要单次发那么大的东西，看不到全靠想象。到目前为止还是只能靠脑补。但是怎么说，从回收船那边的图像来看， 至少打开降落伞和着陆的这一段是会有图像的。至于载入大气层、穿过大气层的那种火流星一样的效果能不能看到的话，就看他们现场的着陆回收，就是那艘船上的摄像设备到底怎么样了，以及现场的天气状况。不过看那边的今天着陆场的天气状况很不错，首先海面没什么浪，而且整个大概是晴天。海面没什么浪的话，估计风也不大。SpaceX 跟 NASA 有什么关系啊？这个老生常谈的问题了。他们现在的话 ，SpaceX 严格来说现在拿了 NASA 的投资，就是在搞载人任务的时候是拿了投资。我们现在看现场好像有进一步的消息。
Halfway through that deorbit burn, so again we expect it to last about 15 minutes and 20 seconds. The visiting vehicle officer all the way back in Houston was just reporting to the station flight director, again, that we were about halfway through. We're continuing to get a couple of views from the boats, and again, those are cameras that are going to be tracking Dragon once it's coming down under those parachutes. And we're also starting to get, it looks like this is a view from a WB-57 airplane. And so we have a number of assets out there off the Florida coast. Again, there's two ships rather, both with tracking cameras on board. And NASA also flying its WB-57 aircraft, typically used for high altitude weather research and other science missions. But it has a camera affixed on it and should hopefully give us some views of Dragon coming down under those parachutes.
So there on your screen, you see a beautiful shot of Go Searcher, which is our primary recovery vessel. There on the front part of the ship, you can see what would essentially be the crew's quarters during the wait. They could be out to sea depending on how rough the waves are for a couple of weeks.
现在主持人提到说这个降轨机动还在进行当中，这次点火会持续15分20秒，在这中间。在这中间，他们会给大家带来一些画面，这些画面主要来自于在大西洋上的这两艘回收船，然后同时刚刚大家看到的黑白的那个带参数的画面是来自 NASA 的一架飞机，WB-53那架飞机，然后那架飞机是 NASA 通常用来研究高空气象条件的这个飞机，然后这次也会拿来在最后的末端追踪飞船的状态。
Vehicle there that we're able to sustain so much activity while we're waiting for the astronauts to splash down, and then obviously once they are on board.
It's also important to note, so right now the teams are about 200 or so, give or take, nautical miles off the coast. That won't be the case when we are bringing crew members back. That landing zone much closer in. I think it typically ranges out about 20 to 24.
现在这两艘回收船的位置离海岸线大概有200海里的样子。然后这是这次无人任务的情况。然后如果以后的有人任务，这个回收船的位置或者是着陆点的位置离海岸线会近很多，大概20到24海里的样子。
As it is re-entering the atmosphere. It's pretty dark in space.
Yeah, we're still in the midst of that deorbit burn. We're expecting.
然后现在我们看到的画面应该是飞船上的推进器在减速制动的时候，反推制动的画面。
Again, this is just the final maneuver, that final firing of those Draco thrusters, just to bring Dragon out of orbit and set it up on a trajectory to ultimately splash down over there in the Atlantic. Whereas you were just seeing the recovery teams are standing by.
这次制动算下来也是整个这次任务里面飞船最后一个需要主动执行的机动动作。现在可以看到。
And again, this deorbit burn lasting or planned to last about 15 minutes and 20 seconds.
这次点火制动会持续15分20秒。
So right now it's been in a circular orbit just beneath the space.
在点火制动之前，它先是停泊在了一个低于国际空间站轨道的原轨道上面，然后现在正在点火制动反推。
The Earth. back down there in the water where the recovery teams are waiting.
Now that we have a full view of the recovery vessel on the very right side of your screen, we can see a portion of the ship that we weren't able to see before, and that's actually the portion of the ship where once the Dragon capsule is close enough, it will be
现在大家能看到的这个画面，是一个回收船的完整的图像。在这个图像的最右面，大家可以看到一个装置，就是一个垂直的装置。这个装置就是用来提起龙飞船的，就是这艘船要先开到一个足够靠近的地方，然后船尾的这个装置会把龙飞船拎起来，从水里拎起来。
Like we said before, this is a demonstration mission, and while our recovery team has been practicing for recovery operations, this is obviously the first time that they will be practicing with a vehicle that's coming from space. So we're
然后在之前的话，这艘回收船以及上面的团队一直在进行了好多次回收演练，但是这次不一样的地方就是这次他们要拿一艘真正从太空中返回的飞船去做练习。
Which in a situation where there's crew on board, that's about that hour to get the crew out of the water and onto the boat so they can do all of their initial medical checks and everything else that we typically do after crew members are returning from these long duration missions. The waves
现在现场的条件看起来不错，就是大西洋上的海浪非常的平静。
Over 200 nautical miles off the coast of Florida, and they'll ultimately be bound back for Port Canaveral, where the spacecraft is going to get brought back in and handed over to the SpaceX teams there, where they're going to begin processing.
然后这个船的话，它会把飞船拉回来，拉到卡纳维拉尔港，然后在这个位置，它会把这艘船交给 SpaceX 的技术人员。
And now that recovery day has come upon us, we can see that we have beautiful skies and in my unprofessional nautical knowledge, relatively calm seas by my eyes. But it's really difficult to be able to predict what the weather is going to be like at sea very far in advance. So we're all very happy to be able to have clear imagery of the recovery team as we make progress here.
I feel like we've lucked out with Florida weather so far on this mission. All right, and we're here, and there's about 1 minute
现在
left
这
in
次
this deorbit burn,
点火之动
so
还
just
剩
about
不到
done
1
with
分
that.
钟。
And this is just that final maneuver to begin bringing Dragon out of space.
点火之动还剩不到1分钟，现在大家看到就是点火之动的画面，飞船上拍摄到点火之动的画面。
That's what you're looking at right now.
在之后，它会载入大气层，并且溅落在大西洋中。溅落地点距离海岸线大概是200海里，这个是这次无人任务的情况。等到下一次载人任务的时候，这个着陆的位置距离海岸线就不会有200海里那么远，而是要近得多，大概20到24海里的范围。
All right, now we're just going to stand by and listen for how the deorbit burn went. Should be wrapping up momentarily.
So, like Dan said, we are waiting confirmation of the conclusion of the deorbit burn. It's been going on for the last several minutes, and like I said before, Dragon departed space station earlier today, performed a number of departure burns, and now we are hopefully just exiting the final burn, and that's the re-entry burn. And there on the left-hand side of your screen, you can see our recovery vessel waiting for the splashdown of Dragon. Once we exit the re-entry burn, we will have parachute deployment. The first one of those will be the drogue chutes, the smaller chutes that slow the vehicle down, followed by
在穿过大气层之后，再往下，大家会看到，飞船开伞的过程会先开一个阻力伞，小的阻力伞来使飞船减速，然后紧接着后面才是主伞。
That was a nominal burn, so the deorbit burn is complete. Dragon is on its way home. And so the next thing that's going to happen is that nose cone on Dragon is going to get closed. We heard that process is now in work.
然后现在已经收到确认，点火制动已经结束，下一步是关闭龙飞船上面的龙飞船鼻锥的那个盖子，就是龙飞船最前面那个盖子，然后这个过程已经正在进行当中，然后再往下它会载入大气层，载入大气层的时候，现在大家看到的画面就是鼻锥上面的拍摄到的鼻锥正在关闭的过程当中。
And again, that nose cone just closes to protect that top portion of the vehicle from all of the re-entry events. Not only the
然后这个鼻锥关闭之后，它会起到保护作用，就会保护飞船前部的所有的设备，不光是在载入大气层的过程当中，还包括在降落的时候。
So again, what you're seeing right now is the nose cone closing on the Dragon spacecraft. As we await for it to re-enter.
现在大家看到的画面就是龙飞船的鼻锥正在关闭，这个鼻锥就是龙飞船最前面对接口的那个盖子，它会在载入大气层之前关闭。现在大家看到的画面是正在关闭，不是开始，已经开始了，正在关闭的过程当中。现在在等待，这个鼻锥关闭的最终确认。
But then pretty soon we're going to be looking towards the actual entry interface. So that's again where Dragon starts hitting.
现在龙飞船的高度还很高，这个时候它还没有接触到稠密大气层，然后等它高度降低之后接触到稠密大气层的时候，它会被气动加热到很高的一个温度。
This heat shield on the bottom of these spacecrafts, and that's why a lot of them are in this conical shape. As a lot of engineers I've talked to, they like to say physics haven't changed since the 1960s.
然后在这个飞船的底部有一个隔热大底，然后这个隔热大底的形状呢，跟大家之前看到的飞船都差不多，然后就好像他们的工程师说的一样，这个物理从60年代开始一直就没有改变过。这句话意思就是说，60年代那个时候做出来这个形状应该长这样，然后到现在因为这个基础的物理规律没有改变嘛，所以这个隔热大底的形状就该那个样子还是长那个样子。
Plasma actually builds up on the outside of the spacecraft, and you can't send or receive signals from there. So it's very common when there's people on board, you'll lose the voice communication between them and the ground, and you'll lose all the telemetry or the data streams that you have coming from the spacecraft to rooms like the Mission Control Center just behind us here in Hawthorne. So that'll be coming up. We're expecting that to happen at about 5:33 a.m. Pacific. So coming up in just about 20 minutes from now.
Exactly. And so after we are able to get through that phase of the mission, like we said before, following that will be the deployment of the parachutes and then splashdown.
Right.
So just a quick recap in case if you
现在回顾一下这个过程。今天早些时候，飞船离开国际空间站，然后执行了4次点火机动。远离国际空间站，现在已经抛弃了货舱，已经把货舱分离掉，并且已经完成了制动减速。再往下一步就是会穿过地球大气层，并且着陆到地面。
That's right. So that nose cone's closed, and we're just going to be standing by to wait until we go through that entry interface. Again, that'll be about 20 minutes from now. And then once it's down through there, it's time for the parachutes. And we talked about the parachutes a little while ago, and we should hopefully get to see those parachutes maybe from the plane.
然后在整个的降落过程当中，我们希望这个降落伞能在那架 WB-53飞机上看到。如果看不到的话，至少在着陆的最后阶段，我们在船上，从船上的画面是能看到飞船的降落伞的。
A little bit, and then we will have the main parachutes. Those are clearly visible by the orange and white coloring on them. Very iconic.
然后这艘船上面装的降落伞是非常显眼的橙白颜色，橙白配色，就好像你之前在他们的测试任务的时候看到的一样。
So at this point, another fun fact about Dragon, in the return to Earth, the seats inside the capsule at this point have actuated or turned into the re-entry position. So depending on what phase of the mission we are in,
现在飞船里面的座椅已经调节到了返回状态，就是这艘船上的座椅，就是航天员坐的座椅，它会随着任务的不同阶段会调整到不同的角度，然后让航天员可以更好的受力，更好的承受过载。
So with that being said, we will take a quick break. Be sure to stay tuned with us as we go through this period of anticipated blackout with the Dragon capsule. We'll be back in just a few as we
然后现在我们能做的就是等待下一个关键性的任务，也就是抛降落伞，应该叫开降落伞对吧？现在看到的这个画面是回收船，然后大家看到后面用来回收的装置已经是展开状态。现在大家看到这个黑白的带参数的画面是来自 NASA 的一架飞机 WB-53。这架飞机通常被NASA 用来研究高空气象。然后这架飞机在今天也会在，算下来应该是着陆之前几分钟的画面可能会由这架飞机来提供。现在欢迎大家关注我们直播间，欢迎大家收看我们直播间。我们现在直播的是美国新一代载人型飞船着陆返回的过程。这艘飞船由美国太空探索技术公司 SpaceX 开发，是他们的龙飞船的第二代型号，第一代是货运飞船，第二代载人飞船。然后在上周末的那个时候，这艘飞船首飞跟国际空间站对接，现在任务已经基本完成。它在今天北京时间下午的时候已经跟国际空间站分离，现在正在返回地球大气层的过程当中。当前的状态，飞船已经完成了返回制动，然后将在大概半个小时左右的时间内穿过地球大气层，并且溅落在大西洋当中。现在大家看到的回收船的画面，刚刚大家看到的回收船的画面就是在大西洋上着陆地点就位准备捞飞船的那艘船。然后现在画面切回到在美国加利福尼亚州的控制中心，这是 SpaceX 美国太空探索技术公司的控制中心。现在看到后边的围观群众已经渐渐多了起来。我们现在在等待下一个关键节点的确认，就是降落伞打开的确认。
And if you're just now joining us, we have had a successful deorbit burn, so that was the last major milestone. We've also confirmed that the nose cone is closed, the hooks all engaged.
现在飞船已经完成点火制动，鼻锥上的那个盖子已经关闭，而且所有其他的准备也都已经完成，现在就等待这艘飞船穿过地球大气层。
You're continuing to get some pretty great views from the boats out there in the splashdown zone. We're also going to be on the lookout for some video possibly from an aircraft that we have in the area. One of NASA's WB-57 research planes is going to be trying to get some views of Dragon and the chute deploy and actually coming down under the parachutes. There are some clouds in the area, so the boats might not see it right away.
然后这次的回收任务，大家会看到的画面主要是来自回收船。然后另外现场还有一架飞机是 NASA 的 WB-57， 更正一下，刚刚记错了那个编号，它的这个机型是 WB-57。
That is fully equipped with medical quarters for checkouts. Once we do have crew on board Dragon for our upcoming missions, they will be able to come out of the capsule and get a full medical checkout immediately afterward. There's also a helipad there where a helicopter can land in the event that we might need to get them back to port. sooner than what the boat
现在这个画面大家看到的是这艘回收船，这艘回收船的，大家可以从右边看到，回收装置已经调整到了工作状态，而且在回收船的顶部，大家看到有一个直升机平台，这个是在以后的载人任务过程当中，航天员可能要比船要更快速的，可能有这个需求，就是航天员可能要比船更快速的回到地面上。
The end, at least whenever we get to that point, that will be the end of our webcast today. But at this point,
龙飞船多少吨自己查，能载几个人？能装7个人最多，但是可以把座椅拆掉装货。然后这次一个人都没装，或者说这次只装了一个假人。
Not with a vessel that has come down from the International Space Station yet. So a lot of firsts that we'll be seeing today, and we're really excited to be able to share that with you.
Yeah, and if you missed the very beginning, the fun historical tidbit we had for today was it's been almost 50 years to the day since we've landed a spacecraft designed for humans in the Atlantic Ocean. That last one was Apollo 9, and that was back on March 13th, 1969. It was actually supposed to land in the Pacific, but ended up shooting for the Atlantic, and that was the last time they landed one in that area. So it's going to be exciting to see this water recovery. All of our crew members for the last couple of years, well, basically since we stopped flying the space shuttle, have come down for land landings over in Kazakhstan on the Russian Soyuz spacecraft. But in the not too distant future, we'll have crew members Doug Hurley and Bob Benkin still waking up. They'll be on the Dragon for the Demo 2 mission.
现在提到了在继航天飞机在路上着陆以及在哈萨克斯坦的联盟飞船着陆之后，又出现了第3种着陆方式。而且我们在今年晚些时候会看到 NASA 的2名航天员会搭乘Demo 2任务的龙飞船 ，Demo 2任务的龙飞船往返国际空间站。
And you can probably hear the voices in the room around us, and the crowd is definitely starting to grow in anticipation of Dragon's reappearance. So with that being said, we will take a quick break as we await for Dragon to re-enter and for.
好了，现在现场，我的个天，为什么他们的那个 BGM 比主持人说话的声音大那么多？就为了听清楚主持人说话声音，我把音量调大了，结果他们 BGM 一响起来，直接把我耳朵给震的，就是那什么了。然后现在，这是舱内画面，舱内现在只装了一个假人，没有真正的航天员。这是一次无人测试任务，尽管说这是载人飞船。然后呢，下一次 Demo 2任务会搭载2名 NASA 的航天员。现在我们在等待的是进一步的确认，现在的状态应该是飞船即将穿越地球大气层，然后在减速之后，在达到一个比较低的高度的时候，会打开降落伞，然后着陆在大西洋当中。这次的着陆地点，刚刚大家看画面的话，刚刚能看到。着陆回收的那艘船，就是巡逻飞船的那艘船的画面，然后那个位置距离海岸线大概有200海里，这是这次无人任务的情况。等到下一次真正的载人任务的时候，这个距离会离海岸线要更近一些，要近很多。实际上，主持人提到的范围大概是会在20到24海里的样子。然后在回收的过程当中，大家看到的图像会主要来自那艘回收船，然后当中如果没有问题的话，在现场还有一架 NASA 的飞机 WB-57一架飞机，它也会提供一部分画面。如果没有弄错的话，会在不是倒计时，就是回收之前，或者应该叫降落之前几分钟，在高度比较高的时候画面会主要来自那架飞机，然后在最后的时刻，就是最后那1-2分钟的时候，可能会从船上看到飞船拖着降落伞着陆。希望大家不要走开，喜欢的可以关注一下我们的直播间，也可以关注一下我们的微信公众号。如果以后有其他有趣的直播，我们会在公众号发通知。
So we're getting a bit of a treat here. You're getting a live view inside the Dragon capsule as, again, it's getting closer and closer to that entry interface coming through the Earth's atmosphere and then splashing down in the
刚刚大家看到的是
we have a very special guest. Somebody
刚刚大家看到的就是那艘飞船上面的直播画面，飞船内部的直播画面。但是在这个事儿之外，我们今天还有一个非常特殊的客人，就是现在大家看到这个航天员 Bob Duncan， 他是将会执行下一次 Demo 2任务的航天员。
When this one's done successfully, we'll be one step closer to our flight.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So what is in store for you between now and that flight? What kind of preparations do you have left to do?
Yeah, that's a great question. We have a significant amount of training that we need to go through. So
然后关于这个任务的训练，航天员是这么说的，就是他们对于下一步的任务有非常多的训练，他们要走过这个任务的每一个步骤，每一个状态。
Into space, and so we'll walk through all those different scenarios. Then we'll head back out here.
然后他们在这儿的话会关注整个过程中的各个事件。
So we're getting views inside the Dragon spacecraft, and I mean, a camera's okay, but it can't do the real thing justice. What's it like to be like in a spacecraft when you're coming back through and everything's heating up?
Yeah, there's a couple of pieces of coming back through the atmosphere. The first one is really emotional for those of us who've seen a lot of spacecraft come back. It's just it's very special to kind of go through that experience, and it's a physical thing as well as you actually see the light from the atmosphere.
然后飞船返回的这个过程，这个航天员是一个说非常激动人心的一个时刻。然后如果是在飞船里的话。会看到一个物理现象，就是外边的气动加热，因为气动加热会导致外面的整个窗户能看到橘红色的火焰。
That's incredible. I can't even imagine what that experience might be like.
Again, there's the physical piece of it. You can, sensations that come in with the light, but there's also the emotion of knowing that you're taking all that energy that you put into the vehicle to.
就是这是像这样的一个激动人心的时刻里面，然后同时你又知道这是一个物理过程，就是你通过这样的气动加热来损失掉能量，损失掉你把把飞船送上天的能量，然后这样你才能安全的落到地面上。
International Space Station, I really am looking forward to seeing it completely complete. I was pretty close with my flight. We put the cupola on the underside of the space station. One of the things close to the construction complete on the International Space Station. So I'm looking forward to getting back in there and actually experiencing sunrises and sunsets again.
然后关于在轨道上的生活，这个航天员提到了国际空间站上有一个舱叫全景舱，它装在国际空间站靠近地球的这一面。
On social media, you've seen the photos of our zero-G indicator. Now he's not coming back until you bring him back for us.
然后现在主持人这边提到了关于之前那个
little earthy while you're up on station with him.
关于之前那个零动力指示器，就是那个小地球玩偶。这个玩偶今天并没有跟着飞船返回地球，它会一直留在国际空间站上，等到现在屏幕上大家看到左边的这个航天员上了太空，然后跟着这个航天员的那艘飞船返回地球。然后这个过程的话呢，航天员说他自己其实也没有意识到，这个小地球将会在空间站上陪他度过他的那一段任务周期。然后他说，像这个小地球的话，到时候基本上也就相当于一个这个航天员乘组里面的一员了吧，到时候就相当于会跟他们执行一些很多事情，比如说做一些这种安全简报啊这些事情。
Us as well.
Thank you.
Well, we're going to get back to the re-entry interface, Bob. We're going to let you go watch along because, again, vested interest in everything that's happening. Thanks so much for jumping upstairs real quick and talking about this.
Thank you again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So with that, we are awaiting the deployment, or excuse me, the final phase of the re-entry of Dragon spacecraft as it's coming back through the Earth's atmosphere. I'm still kind of reeling from his comments about what it's like to actually come barreling through the Earth's atmosphere, something that you see depicted in movies and TV shows, of course, but to hear it live from the source is pretty cool. And that's exactly what Dragon and Ripley are doing right now. So we brought you a live view of that just a couple of minutes ago. That was pretty cool that we were able to get that shot. Like we said, plasma will be building up on the exterior of the vehicle as it's re-entering the atmosphere. So there's a blackout period that we were expecting, and that's where we're at right now. So, but we can't bring you a view of Ripley on her journey back to the Atlantic Ocean. You can see a view of our recovery.
现在大家在屏幕的左边可以看到回收船的画面，在回收船的船尾，大家看到用来回收飞船的装置已经在展开状态。然后刚刚提到，在飞船返回地球大气层的过程中，在气动加热的这个情况下，飞船的周围会聚集起来等离子体，这会导致一个叫做黑障的现象，就这个时候飞船是没有办法跟地球通信的，所以中间这一段时间没有办法跟大家带来飞船上的指示信号，但是在最终的开降落伞和着陆的过程中，如果没出问题的话，按道理是有画面的。
Going out on some fast boats that will deploy from that prime ship, and they'll begin just basically getting the capsule stable and then bringing it in closer to ultimately get hoisted up on the ship. Also, going off to make sure that they get those parachutes as those get jettisoned from the capsule at pretty much just at the moment of touchdown. So we're just going to be ready to watch all of that unfold pretty soon.
现在是直播，现在是直播，现在是直播，欢迎大家关注我们的直播间。现在直播，现在时间北京时间晚上9点31分。北京时间晚上9点31分，距离。
Absolutely. So, like Dan just said,
距离飞船开伞的时间大概还有10分钟，距离飞船开第一个伞就是开阻力伞的时间还有大概10分钟。
A quick break, and we'll be back in a few as we get closer to parachute deployment.
哎，说晚上9点天还这么亮，你们知不知道有些地方晚上9点天就是亮的，比如说这种欧洲高纬度一点的地方，他们在用夏令时的时候，然后他们真的晚上9点天就是亮的，也就是那种时间错乱的感觉。而且我说的是当地时间9点，不是因为时差的这个玩笑，就真的是个极端一个让人不适应的一个状态。现在大家看到的是在美国加利福尼亚州的控制中心，是 SpaceX 美国太空探索技术公司的控制中心。现在看到控制中心隔离的玻璃幕墙外面已经聚集起来了越来越多的围观群众。现在距离飞船降落可能还有10几20分钟的样子。欢迎大家关注我们的直播间，喜欢的点一波关注，也可以关注一下我们的微信公众号在线天文。致力于带来有趣的天文及航天方向直播，以后有其他有趣的直播会在微信公众号或者微博给大家发通知，也可以加一下我们的群号在屏幕下方滚动字幕有。现在大家看到的来自大西洋的画面中间的这艘船就是等一下去捞飞船的那一艘。这艘船的尾部大家可以看到已经展开的回收飞船的装置，然后顶部是一个直升机平台。在以后执行载人航天任务的时候，回收完飞船之后，航天员可能会搭乘直升机更快速的返回陆地，而不是坐船慢慢的飘回来。现在飞船应该已经是在穿越地球大气层的过程当中。我们在等待着下一步的确认，也就是飞船开降落伞的确认。现在大家看到的是美国继航天飞机退役之后，第一艘可以载人型号的飞船首飞测试。这艘飞船这一次是无人飞行测试。如果完全成功的话，在今年晚些时候，或者叫今年下半年，将会搭载2名 NASA 的宇航员往返国际空间站进行载人测试。 这个船上去多久了，然后下来大概在国际空间站那儿待了1个礼拜的样子。可以去翻我们的直播录像，我们在这个飞船发射的时候，我们也做了转播。关于降落的话，这个采用的是传统的降落伞着陆的方式，然后在海面溅落。就是 SpaceX 在开发这个船的时候，2014年开发布会的时候，这艘飞船当时展示的方案是用它返回舱上装的8个发动机全程反推着陆，一种非常科幻的方式。当时SpaceX 的 CEO 马斯克也说这是21世纪飞船应该用的着陆方式。但是5年之后，在他们的飞船第一次飞行测试的时候，这个事情是残酷的，就是你可以开脑洞做这样一种非常高大上的测试这样非常高大上的一种着陆方式，但是实际上呢，在你真正飞的时候，发现还是要回归到传统，就是传统的开降落伞着陆的这样一种大家用了几十年的这种很古老的方式上面来。现在大家看到的画面来自大西洋的回收船。现在画面右边的那艘大一点的船就是等一下去捞飞船的那艘，左边那艘小艇大家忽略，那艘小艇只是一个辅助性的船。然后现在我们在等待的是下一步任务下一步确认，也就是飞船开降落伞确认。中间的话，我们希望随时可能切进来那架 WB-57那架飞机的画面，但是现在情况不是很确定。怎么能知道落在这里啊？都可以算的嘛，飞船轨道可以算的，轨迹可以算的。至于能落多准这个事儿，就我们就看热闹呗。说好的看热闹不嫌事儿大呢。现在大家看到飞机的画面 ，WB-57那架飞机的画面，看到飞船拖着火焰载入大气层，这应该是一个红外相机拍摄到的画面。前面的亮点是飞船的本体，然后后面拖着一个气动加热的尾焰，火流星一样。现在大家看到的画面就是来自 NASA 的一架飞机 WB-57那架飞机拍摄到的画面。画面正中间那个亮点就是飞船正在穿过大气层。现在可以看到飞船的速度穿过大气层的时候，产生的气动热把这个飞船加热到非常高的温度。这个是红外的画面，而且能看到这个飞船后面拖着一条高温的尾气，整个都是因为飞船速度非常高，穿越地球大气层的时候的气动加热，整个看起来火流星一样。
Commonly used for a lot of atmospheric studies and other science missions, but able to put a tracking camera on it to try and get this re-entry through the Earth's atmosphere today. We're hearing that they should have AOSO acquisition of signal back with the Dragon spacecraft. Right now it's about 46 kilometers in altitude.
Yeah, so just for orientation purposes, if you've seen our launches previously, you might be familiar with the angling of this as takeoff. Reminder, this is
现在这个画面是飞船返回的过程当中，这个画面的角度关系大概是这个样子：飞机现在高度低于飞船，然后摄像机向上拍，然后飞船从飞机的上空掠过。然后因为角度的关系，所以看起来这个飞船往上走，但实际上它是一个横着从飞机上面掠过的这样的一个轨迹。
Just keeping you on the timeline, so we actually acquired signal about a minute ahead of when it was expected, where we're going to be looking for those initial drogue chute deployments.
然后预计在北京时间的晚上9点51分开伞，距离现在大概还有2分钟。开伞的过程会先开减速伞，先开一个小的减速伞，先给飞船减速，然后减到一定速度之后会开主伞，然后主伞的面积足够大，可以保证飞船安全的降落在海面上。
We should be getting that.
现在距离开减速伞还有大概2分钟。
And just heard that we're now below 30 kilometers.
现在大家看到的画面来自 NASA 的一架飞机，这架飞机叫 WB-57，它是一架 NASA 通来用来做高空气象研究的飞机。现在他们在用这架飞机装上了跟踪用的摄像机来拍摄飞船返回的画面。现在马上可能1分钟之后，大家会看到飞船开伞的画面。现在大家看到中间的亮点就是这艘飞船。
We're under 30 kilometers, continuing to descend.
现在大家就是可以静静等待飞船开伞，等待飞船打开降落伞。现在飞船高度大概20公里。
And hearing we're now about 20 kilometers in altitude.
这会儿应该随时开伞。大家盯住屏幕，不要走开，飞船马上开伞。
Dragon spacecraft continuing to descend. It's now sub.
现在龙飞船还在继续下降，现在已经减速到亚音速程度。已经减速到亚音速，看到开伞，开伞。现在看到的是上面是上面应该是船上，然后下面是飞船上拍摄到的开伞画面。 这是那架跟踪飞机上拍摄到的开伞画面。现在打开的是，看画面是减速伞。等一下会有抛减速伞和开主伞的动作。现在飞船打开的2个小的伞是减速伞，它们是起到减速作用。之后会看到开主伞画面。 现在大家听到背景的欢呼声是在 SpaceX 的总部 ，SpaceX 总部大家欢呼的声音。
What a gorgeous shot of Dragon coming back down.
开主伞，开主伞，总共4个主伞。主伞先是收起状态减速，然后逐渐充气，现在充气。主伞在充气，然后展开。 看画面，4个主伞全部展开成功，飞船姿态稳定。
Really can't ask for a more picture-perfect shot than that.
And yes, all 4 chutes now deployed. It's going to continue.
现在飞船会继续减速，直到最终着陆在大西洋中。
We're now under a kilometer in altitude.
.还有750米。
Just about 750 meters to go.
In case if you're just joining us, you can see on your screen there, Dragon has just re-entered the Earth's atmosphere after departing from the International Space Station. We have a gorgeous shot of 4 healthy parachutes deployed and slowing the vehicle down.
现在大家看到的画面，这艘龙飞船已经完成了载入大气层的过程，现在主伞已经打开，正在缓慢下降，它会降落在佛罗里达州外海大西洋中的大西洋的海面上。现在看到飞船的4个降落伞状态都很正常。300米还在下降。
just passing 300 meters, continuing to descend. We might be right on time. We were planning on splashing down.
之前预计的着陆时间是北京时间晚上9点45分，现在看着陆时间跟预计时间差距非常小，非常的精确。小于100米。
And we have confirmation
高度小于100米。
Under 100 meters, is 100 meters above the surface.
准备降落。
So next up, standing by for splashdown.
降落。降落已经确认。
And there we have confirmation of splashdown. Dragon has returned to planet Earth. It is now back home.
现在
and you can see on your screen.
现在看到2艘快艇已经前往飞船降落的位置。
That splashdown came right on time, 5:45 a.m. Pacific.
降落时间北京时间晚上9点45分。
The teams that have been ready and waiting, they were staged just a few nautical miles away. They're going to start moving in now. You can see those 2 fast approach boats already speeding their way towards the capsule.
While there's still a little bit more work to be done at this point, like we said, the recovery team has to safe the vehicle and then lift it onto the recovery vessel. However, obviously by the excited cheers here at Mission Control, the splashdown is an enormous event for us.
虽然说道理上讲，真正的任务完成要等回收船把这艘飞船捡回来才算。但是在控制中心现在来看，现在已经是完成了这个相当于非常重要的一步，就是可以听到在控制中心里面大家已经在庆祝了。
Actually get jettisoned away from the spacecraft as soon as the vehicle detects that it's splashed down in the water. But if you missed it, I'm really sorry because that was really cool to see. But Dragon did splash down at 5:45 a.m. Pacific time, 8:45 a.m. over there on the East Coast, where they're now moving in on a Dragon spacecraft in the water, ready to recover it.
Exactly. So, like we said, the recovery team has been ready and waiting for a Dragon splashdown. It's been quite the morning. Evening. Dan and I have been here since yesterday night, bringing you coverage from Dragon departure from the International Space Station now all the way down to splashdown. So it's a great next milestone, and we are excited to bring you coverage of the recovery operations as well. But we have a few minutes before that happens, so we're going to take a break momentarily.
现在的话，距离海上的回收作业还有几分钟，这中间几分钟。会跟大家带来这个画面，但是现场官方主持人的解说会暂停一下。好，我们可以总结一下今天的情况。今天北京时间凌晨的时候，飞船的舱门已经关闭，然后到今天北京时间下午3、4点的时候，飞船跟国际空间站分离，然后到大概1个小时之前，它开始执行返回地球的任务。现在已经穿过了地球大气层，并且就像大家画面看到的一样，稳稳地着陆在了，或者叫溅落在了大西洋的海水当中。现在我们看到回收团队里面有2艘快艇正在前往飞船着陆的位置，在之后会有更清晰的回收画面。从现在情况来看，这个是用长焦镜头拍的，所以大家看到这2艘船开过去的时候开得很慢，而且关键一个问题就是那艘回收船看上去开不了很快，所以要等它开过去，就是等到那艘大的回收船开过去才能开始执行真正的回收任务。 而且从现在那2艘快艇的情况来看，它应该已经接近飞船，因为那2艘快艇已经看上去速度已经减下来了，已经没有什么速度了，而且看上去不是速度减下来，而是在画面中间这艘快艇已经到了飞船边上。觉得现在画面模糊的话，大家可以再稍微耐心等个5分钟的样子吧。因为从现在这个画面来看，这是在大船上拍摄到的画面，大船上用长焦镜头拍摄到的画面。所以距离的话，大船现在距离飞船可能还不近，要慢慢等这艘大船开过去。切换快艇视角，我倒是也想切换。快艇视角。问题是想切换快艇视角也切不过去啊，不存在的。说主播再往前游一游的，我倒是想再往前游一游。我怎么发现刚刚这个着陆的时候，很多人在刷空投，大家是不是吃鸡打多了？这个。关于回收作业到底是什么样子的话，其实大家都没见过，因为这艘飞船是第一次发射，第一次返回，所以它的回收作业呢，大家慢慢等等看咯，就可能5分钟、10分钟的样子吧，感觉。因为感觉这艘回收船离飞船的距离好像也没有很远的样子。关于这个镜头这么稳的，你们知道有一种叫稳定器的东西吗？你们知道这个早期的时候，就是现在稳定器都是手机就可以用了，很便宜。然后要知道最早的同样功能的东西，在上个世纪初的那个时候就有了，海军用的，海军那个就是舰炮的指挥仪。所以在船上嘛，船上装个这玩意儿太简单了。欢迎大家来看堪巴拉太空计划，我们是不是可以数一下堪巴拉太空计划跟实际的情况哪儿不一样？首先呢，堪巴拉太空计划没有风，其次堪巴拉太空计划它的海水没有浪，然后呢，堪巴拉太空计划的海水密度大得很，基本上没有任何东西可以沉到堪巴拉太空计划的海水里面。这个画质没办法，画质，大家看右下角字幕画质，不是哦，是刚说字幕画质，字幕没了。而且大家有没有发现这个飞船看上去越来越大？有没有发现这飞船看上去越来越大？有就对了，因为回收船离飞船越来越近啊。小艇没了，对，小艇还真没了。现在看到画面已经切到了指挥中心，画面切到了指挥中心是几个情况呢？但是看到指挥中心的围观群众人数明显少了， 大家都去庆祝去了吗？泡水膨胀的什么鬼？什么东西泡水会膨胀？反正飞船泡水不会膨胀。第一排第二换人了，是你们刚才说那个上班玩手机的那个人吗？上班玩手机被换掉了。
So we're going to take a quick break from the operations because right now we have Benji Reed. He's the director of the Commercial Crew Mission Management here at SpaceX. Benji, first off, congratulations. Successful splashdown, successful end of demo 1. What's it been like to watch through this mission? What are your thoughts? What are you looking forward to? Have you had a chance to catch your breath?
No, but I'm super excited. Thank you for having me up here. To be honest, I'm kind of shaking, and I'm super, excited. It was an incredible journey to get to this moment. The teams have just done an amazing job, both the SpaceX and the NASA teams jointly. It's fundamentally, this is like a great day for the nation, for SpaceX, for NASA, for all of us, really for the world. I think it was Anne who said this is the first time in 40 years that we have a spacecraft designed for humans to fly. And not only did she fly and go to the space station, do everything she was supposed to do, but we brought her home safe and sound, landing here in the Atlantic. Just amazing. I can't believe how well the whole mission has gone.
那行吧，现在其实刚刚那个大家说没有领导讲话也不对，现在这不就是领导讲话吗？现在正在被采访的这个人就是来自 SpaceX 的一个算是一个领导吧，就是他是管 SpaceX 载人航天任务这一块的，然后那堆套话就不翻译了吧，就无非是什么对全人类啊，对这个美国啊，对这个 SpaceX 啊，这都是非常重要的里程碑性质的这些领会精神就好。
SpaceX, we're here. We're just super honored to have the opportunity to have done this mission, to have worked with NASA, to work through this. And Demo 1 is fundamentally this first major milestone in our process towards certification. I always like to remind everybody that, this is a whole system, right? There's Crew Dragon, but there's the Falcon that's going to be certified to fly humans. There's also all the ground systems, the operations.
在这儿呢，他还提醒大家，这个事儿不要只关注飞船，因为这是一整套系统，整套系统里面包括这个飞船，包括猎鹰9号运载火箭，还有包括整个他们地面上的团队。他们通过这样的一次任务之后呢，就是整个所有的团队、所有的设施。就都是被认证为可以执行载人航天任务的了。
When you're on the ground is how fluids work in microgravity. So things like the prop system and all of the propulsion. And what's amazing is that worked perfectly, just like we expected. We got to station, we docked. And, it's the first time, I think, in history that a commercial vehicle and also an American vehicle has docked autonomously to the International Space Station. So that's just super cool. Loaded with all kinds of sensors, all kinds of tests that we did. We met Ripley. Yeah. We got to see, she's loaded with sensors so we can understand exactly all the forces that will happen on the crew as they come, as they're launched and then sent to station and come home. We got to meet the little Earth guy. I heard he's going to stay on station. Yep. And so that'll be for Bob and Doug to retrieve.
说为什么傻笑的？刚刚最后一段傻笑就是他们提到了那个小地球，就是那个蓝色的那个小玩偶，那个小布偶，它留在了国际空间站上面。
And then again, like I said, just beautiful parachute deployment. Everything the way we expected. All of these gazillions of tests that we've been doing on parachutes. All of the analysis and work that we've done on understanding the aerodynamics of reentry and coming home. Everything's just wonderful. The important thing now is we take all of this data that we've learned.
We love data.
We love data, right? I mean, fundamentally, we're engineers and engineering-driven.
然后最后这儿说的最重要的事情就是他们拿到了这次飞行全程的所有数据，然后他们是工程师，所以他们很在意数据，这是一种工程师驱动的这样的一种模式，所以这个事儿很重要。
Is to be able to continue to staff space station, right, and provide astronauts' rides up to space.
然后现在切过来的这个两个画面，左边的画面就是回收现场，飞船的回收现场。
So we finished demo 1, huge milestone. Next up, we take that data, we apply it, we learn from it, and we're going to go to our in-flight abort test, similar to that pad abort test that we did a few years ago. Except this time we put the Dragon. It'll actually be the same Dragon that we flew on demo 1. We're going to take that and put it on top of a Falcon 9, launch it, get it going super fast, get it to test conditions, and then
然后提到之后的下一个任务就是一个叫做飞行过程中的逃生任务，就是跟之前的发射台逃逸任务差不多，但是这次他们会把飞船，而且实际上就是现在大家屏幕左边看到的这一艘飞船，同一艘飞船，装到一枚猎鹰9号火箭上，把它加速到一个足够高的速度高度，然后达到实验条件，然后开启逃生设备，把飞船弹出去，然后降落伞着陆。
It's important to take a step back and think about all of what it took to get here, all the work from all the joint teams, NASA and SpaceX, all the support that we've had from friends and family, and really I think the most important thing is that on behalf of all of the 6,000 people here at SpaceX, we really want to thank NASA, we want to thank the space station, the international partners, and thank the American public for their support and partnership as we go through this. We're really proud to be part of this endeavor.
Thank you for being here with us. It is early Friday morning here in Hawthorne, so for those of us that work here at SpaceX, we still got a full workday going, and obviously we've already been working on Demo 2 for a while, even though today was the Demo 1 day, so I'm sure that you, like me, will continue our work on Demo 2 for the rest of the day.
I'm going into meetings to start talking about the next steps that we've already been working on Demo 2. So.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much for being here with us. Congratulations to your team as well on the success of the last week. Really, it's been awesome for us to be able to share the hard work of all SpaceX employees with the public. So with that being said, thanks for being here. We're going to take a quick break as we bring you more coverage of the recovery operations, which you can see is ongoing on your screen there on the left.
切到了整个现场大的画面，而且看到回收船已经开到了离飞船非常近的一个位置，而且看到现场的快艇上的工作人员已经把落地的时候正好盖在飞船上的降落伞拿掉了，已经看到飞船的本体。整个看到了是在载入大气层的过程当中烧黑的状态。怎么改测色板了？怎么又改测色板了？好吧，他们两个画面中间切换的时候没法做到无缝切换，够了。然后这边画面切回到控制中心，切回到在加利福尼亚州的控制中心。好的，现在大家看到的是在美国加利福尼亚州 SpaceX 控制中心的画面。现在直播的是第2代龙飞船第一次飞行实验中的回收部分。这艘飞船已经完成载入大气层，并且已经安全地着陆在了大西洋中，现在就等着回收船过去把它捞起来。 我们希望随时能把画面切回到大西洋中。现在大家只能看到的是在 SpaceX 的控制中心 ，SpaceX 控制中心的画面。实际上，这个时候对于控制中心来说，他们的任务基本上已经完成了，因为已经没有什么他们能做的事情了。其实关于太平洋跟大西洋的那个问题，也是不知道他们今天怎么就突然之间想去大西洋了。因为传统上美国的飞船着陆都是在太平洋，包括之前的水星双子座、阿波罗，还有 SpaceX 之前第一代的货运飞船都在太平洋着陆。然后不知道他们怎么这会儿就突然想去大西洋了。关于回收要不要这么多人？回收当然控制中心不需要这么多人，但是飞船返回可是需要这么多人的。飞船从太空中返回的过程中，那是实打实的轨道机动，实打实的要开推进器的，而且今天的推进器总共烧了有15分钟20秒。那我突然好奇它那个推进器是怎么冷却的，因为一般这种小的姿态推进器都是辐射冷却。辐射冷却说的更明白一点就是没冷却，所以它能烧到15分20秒还没问题，它肯定是有冷却。这事儿回头可以查一下。
We're waiting to get some video back from those recovery teams out there in the Atlantic. For now, though, we do have another guest for today's broadcast. NASA
好了，现在连线 NASA 的领导
over at NASA headquarters in Washington D.C. So I'll send it over to you.
然后现在大家注意了，大家收听 NASA 领导讲话。
For NASA and what we have to look forward to in the future.
Absolutely. This is an amazing achievement in American history. In fact, I said on a press conference at 4 in the morning after it launched that this was the dawn of a new era in American human spaceflight, and really in the spaceflight for the entire world because of all of our international partners on the International Space Station. But this achievement spans many administrations. It spans many NASA administrators. I want to start by thanking Mike Griffin, who was the NASA administrator that really got this program going during the George W. Bush administration. And of course, Charlie Bolden was the administrator for 8 years under President Barack Obama. He kept this program strong. And then of course, Robert Lightfoot was immediately preceded me. And here we are today with this amazing achievement, and the current president, President Trump, his budgets for NASA have been as strong as they have been in my adult lifetime. So this really is an American achievement that spans many many generations of NASA administrators, and in fact,
好了，总结一下，就是最开始说这是一个对于 NASA 来说，或者对于美国来说是一个对它的航天工程来说是一个新时代的黎明。然后他感谢了很多人，就包括 NASA 的各部门的，他点名了这个人，包括点名了这个2届这个总统，就是布什还有奥巴马，就是他们的政策也对这个事儿起了很重要的这种推动作用。
This new era in American human spaceflight. So this is really an amazing achievement for all of America, but it's not just for all of America right now. It goes back in time. There are so many people that deserve credit, and really what's unique now.
然后就是整体来说，这个事儿呢，就是对这个事儿有贡献的人有很多。然后这个比较有意思的一点就是 NASA 到今天它也这个事儿说明了 NASA 其实也可以成为客户意思就是说之前 NASA 都是提供这个航天运载服务的，然后到今天 NASA 变成别人的客户了。
Where we are launching American astronauts on American rockets from American soil. I have heard, when I was a member of Congress, I heard over and over again, how do we keep constancy of purpose? Because it seems like we lurch from one administration to the next and changing visions and changing budgets. How do we keep constancy?
然后很重要的，像这种大工程当中一个重要的事情就是如何保持连贯性。如何保持连贯性？然后这个 SpaceX 的这次载人飞船的项目其实就是一个很好的一个证明。
It is important. But now NASA can be a customer. We can be one customer of many customers for human space flight in what we believe will be a very robust commercial marketplace.
对于 NASA 来说，他们之后会有很多个服务提供商然后这些服务提供者的话，他们之间会是一个竞争关系。
The idea that we can reuse rockets and drive down cost and increase access to space, just an amazing capability for our country, an amazing capability for the world.
这个事儿对于美国，然后对于他们来讲都是很重要的。就是好像他们现在大家可以重复使用飞机一样，如果他们有一天可以重复使用飞船。
But this is an amazing achievement in this path. To really a sustainable return to the moon.
然后之后的话，他们其实离重返月球已经不是很远了。
We're driving down costs for low Earth orbit. We're commercializing low Earth orbit, not just with launch, but also eventually with space stations, with human activities.
然后对于低轨的任务来说，他们现在致力于把低轨任务商业化。然后这样的话，低轨就可以完全商业运行，他们 NASA 就可以。NASA 还有 NASA 的低轨空间站就会成为一个就是其他公司的客户，这样的话他们就可以把纳税人的钱用到其他的地方上去。
Really grand vision, but this is no small piece. This is an amazing achievement in the history of the United States of America, and it just really exemplifies.
这个事儿也是证明了，如果他们能在同一件事情上一直坚持，然后他们能做到什么？其实他讲 constancy 这个词的时候，我突然想起来中国的领导人曾经说过一句话：“我们不折腾。”其实说的是一个事儿。
We are still waiting to get some views from all the recovery teams. They are still in that recovery process. Again, we expected it to be between 30 minutes and an hour until they get the Dragon capsule back up on the boat. So before we do get those feeds back, we're going to head out to JSC real quick, the Johnson Space Center in Houston, where we have a few more folks standing by, including Steve Stitch, who is the Deputy Program Manager for NASA's Commercial Crew Program. We also have Mike Hopkins, a NASA astronaut, and one of those astronauts already assigned to a future Dragon mission. And then Mr. Kenny Todd, he's the Operations Integration Manager for the International Space Station. So guys, I'll send it over to you real quick. Offer us your thoughts on how this mission's unfolded and what's ahead in the future.
Hey, thank you, Dan. Hey, it's great to be here representing the Commercial Crew Program. Just what an outstanding day to be part of our program. You know, we left our contracts in 2014 for these first missions, and to sit here today and talk about Demo 1 and how great the flight went and what we're going to learn from it, it's just amazing. I'd like to congratulate the SpaceX team, a phenomenal job getting the vehicles ready and executing the flight. Our whole NASA team that worked the mission. And if you just think about the enormity of what happened in this flight and all the prep that went into it, getting the pad refurbished at 39A, getting the flight control room set up, getting the vehicles built, getting the Falcon 9 ready, all the analysis, all the mission support that went into it, the sims and the practice leading up to this flight over the last year or so. Just been a tremendous job. I would say one of the things that we learned during this flight is the great
我觉得这堆套话的话，我懒得翻译，或者说我翻不动，连着盯1个小时翻不动了。然后弹幕在问中间的穿蓝衣服的是航天员吗？是，不是这次的，是下次的。不是下次的吗？是下次的吧？不是下次的，他做这干嘛呢
？Space Station program did a phenomenal job supporting our program while we were docked to station on the way to station.
中间是蓝翔的代表，不能穿着蓝衣服就是蓝翔是吧
？Great opportunity for this mission. The last 24 hours have been exciting for us. You know, we closed the hatches yesterday around noon, got into the undock today about 1:31 a.m., did a few small separations to get away from station. If you watched that on NASA TV, that was flawless. Did about 3 separations to get down below station. Executed the deorbit burn at about 6:52 a.m. Central Time, and then landed at just a few minutes ago at 7:45.
这边现在这个是在总结这次任务的过程，就是什么时候分离，什么时候降轨，什么时候着陆，什么时候回收，然后回收现场的情况，回收现场情况都很气象条件很好。然后可能需要半个小时、1个小时才能把这个飞船装到回收船上面。
But then when you kind of look overall at this mission, it was a great dress rehearsal for Demo 2. We learned a phenomenal amount in the pre-launch time frame about how to load the vehicle and thinking forward to how we'll put the crews in the vehicle. You know, the ascent profile for this flight, we practiced the exact profile that Mike Hopkins and others will fly very soon, Doug Hurley and Bob Binken. We had the abort system, the crew escape system in Dragon, actually enabled for this flight, and we were
然后飞船上的系统里面有一套逃生系统，然后这次的话，他们可以拿到逃生系统相关的数据，就是逃生系统触发这个逃生系统相关的数据。
The vehicle really did better than we expected.
主要是传感器。
And the rendezvous was phenomenal as we came in, checked out those sensors. The link to space station worked.
然后在跟空间站对接的时候也是，空间站对接的时候也是检测各方面的传感器这种仪器设备的状态，因为这次装的也是新的对接口。
Demo 2 and then the Crew 1 and other missions. And then we did a robotic survey of the vehicle to look at the.
然后在对接中间还对飞行员不是飞行员是飞船的外部进行了检查，来确保飞船外部的隔热层状态良好。
Where we've been in operations in that sprint, I think Kenny would probably tell you the same thing. It was just a phenomenal job by the team. And then of course today, you know, the undocking, watching how those systems performed, that went flawless. It's a very tight sequence between undocking and the deorbit burn, how the nose cone performed, how the deorbit burn was executed, and the entry was phenomenal. We did have Riley on board, a test dummy, and that's going to give us a lot of important data for the accelerations during both the ascent phase and then the entry phase under the parachutes and then landing. So we'll collect that data and look at that. You know, over the next few weeks, we'll be doing post-flight reviews. In fact, just next week, we'll have one for the launch vehicle and the ground segment at KSC. We'll start reviewing that.
然后在之后的几个星期里面，他们会对这次任务做出进行回顾，就包括这次任务的地面部分和这次任务在太空飞行的部分。
Today will be the in-flight abort vehicle, and so one of the first things that will happen is the vehicle will come back to KSC and go over into the processing area and
再往后的话，他们会重新把这艘船给修缮好，然后让它去执行下一次的飞行中逃逸的那次测试任务，大概会在今年的夏天。
So that'll be a busy year for us for SpaceX with in-flight abort in the June timeframe, and then Demo 2 later in the year with the first crewed mission. I don't think we saw really anything in the mission so far, and we've got to do the data reviews that would preclude us having the crewed mission later this year. And then after that, it's a busy time in our program also. If you look in the April timeframe, we're getting ready for the orbit flight test for Boeing, and that will happen very soon. And so our program will transition after this mission and the data reviews into preparing not only for
然后之后的话，就是今年的任务其实很忙，之后还有今年8月份还有在波音的一个产品要做轨道，就是入轨和返回测试。
Vehicle is coming together at the commercial crew processing facility down in Florida, and they're in the middle of a bunch of very critical testing right now at an El Segundo to verify that's the spacecraft can work successfully in space.
然后再往后的话，今年晚些时候还会有波音的一次载人航天飞行任务，载人航天测试飞行任务。
In addition to this flight, we did in the last few weeks we did parachute tests for SpaceX and Boeing, and so if you look at all the activities to get ready for flying our crews, it's just a very exciting time. So again, congratulations to our SpaceX team and all the NASA people across the country that worked so hard for many, many years on this flight. It really sets us up for the rest of the year, and it's a super exciting time to be in commercial crew. Now I'll turn it over to Hopper.
All right, thanks, Steve. So on behalf of the astronaut office and the crew, I'd like to also extend our congratulations to the SpaceX team, to the commercial crew team, to really all of NASA, and to everyone that was involved in this major milestone on returning human launch and landing capabilities back to U.S. soil. I think that's very exciting. But as you can see on the video of the vehicle, work is still ongoing. The recovery procedures process is still ongoing, and I'm personally very anxious to hear how I think it's Ripley is feeling after they pull her out of the capsule and get her back onto the recovery vehicle. In terms of some major takeaways from a crew perspective, I think one of the things that we're very excited about from this DM1 mission is for the first time we've gotten to see an end-to-end test. And so now we've brought together the people, the hardware, and all the processes and procedures, and gotten to see how they all work together. And that's very important on this as we move towards putting people on board the vehicle. And as Steve also said, of course, we're very interested in seeing the data. I suspect there's going to be some lessons learned, some improvements, some changes that we're going to have to make from this. That's all part of the testing process. In terms of what's ahead for the crew, so for all of the crew, including the DM2 crew, Bob and Doug, and myself and Victor Glover, and then the backup crew, Kjell Lindgren, we're all going to be following very closely the
乘组他们会密切关注下一次飞行过程中的逃逸测试，然后他们会准备好下一次的 DM2 那次载人任务。
Specifically for Bob and Doug as DM2, of course, they're going to start focusing even more on that training for the DM2 mission. They've got, after this mission, they've got a lot less runway in front of them, so it's going to start moving, I think, a lot quicker. For the crew, the team,
他们接受了很多训练，不光是包括龙飞船，还包括针对 ISS， 就是国际空间站的训练。
Our mission is to not only get up there and return safely, but is actually to do some work for the ISS program while we're there. And so that means
就是他们要接受这些训练，然后来获得舱外行走的能力，还有包括操控机械臂的能力。
For over 18 years now, pretty amazing. So that's what's ahead for us. I guess finally I'd like to just kind of emphasize that this mission, this amazing week that we've had, is really just one small step in this very methodical build-up.
然后整个对他们来说，这一个神奇的这一个星期，对他们来说呢，只是一小步，只是整个对于他们还有对于 SpaceX 这个公司来的整个。 这些项目里面的非常小的一小步。
Any conversation you're going to have today with anybody around here is going to start with a congratulations, and so I'll certainly offer mine to Steve Stitch, Kathy Leaders, the commercial crew program, just a phenomenal effort. It's not easy doing what this program's had to do for the last several years, and to finally see the product of that has just been incredible for the last week. And our friends out at SpaceX, Benji Reed, Artie Matthews, the team out there, we've been working with them for the better part of a decade doing commercial cargo services, and that's we know that team. They're as every bit excited about human spaceflight as we are, and their passion shows. It shows whenever they launch a vehicle. It shows whenever they bring a vehicle home. There's just a lot of excitement around that, and it's quite invigorating for a lot of us to see that kind of passion. It really is cool. So anyway, to Benji and the team at SpaceX, certainly we pass along our congratulations from the space station program, and we'll certainly look forward to seeing you guys again soon. As far as the milestones, the things we got to do while the Crew Dragon was on board, one of the things from a station program that we were really looking to do was to check out the interface that we installed here a couple of years ago on the front end of PMA-2. To ensure that our latches worked properly, interfacing with the Dragon.
好了，现在这边这个是 NASA ISS 的人在除了前头那堆废话之外，现在说关键的是，对他们来说很重要的一个事儿就是他们这次检测了几年前装在空间站上的那个对接适配器，就这次用的那个对接适配器，然后检测下来是没有什么问题的，所有的东西工作都一切正常。
Up on the Node 2 Zenith port, which will give us two ports to dock the commercial crew vehicles, and so we're excited to get on with that activity later on this year. So as far as the team, I talked to our team earlier this week, and I said probably in about a week from now we'll forget that we had a Crew Dragon on board just because of what lies in front of us, and that is we have a new crew coming up later.
然后他说这个空间站上的航天员可能过不了多久就会忘记他们这个星期有一艘龙飞船对接在上面，因为就在下周四会有另外一艘飞船会到国际空间站，那艘飞船是在拜科努尔航天发射场发射，是俄罗斯的联盟飞船。
And work on the backlog that we have on board. So we're excited about that. And one of the first things we're going to be tackling as soon as we get back up to Crew 6 is a set of EVAs. We can call it a triple EVA because, like it sounds, it's a set of 3 EVAs. We're going to do 3 of them in about 16 days. And so right after hatch open, we're going to be hard at work trying to put the final plans in place for those EVAs. And then shortly after that, we've got a couple of cargo vehicles coming up. In fact, another SpaceX vehicle and also a Northrop Grumman Cygnus is coming on board as well during the month of April. So there's a lot going on. Again, we're very excited about what's happened this week, and next week we'll go tackle some of the stuff that's coming forward. But at least today and for this weekend, we want to celebrate this accomplishment with the commercial crew program and the folks from SpaceX and bask in the glow of that along with them and enjoy it. It was quite a few days here, Dan. So with that, we'll hand it back to you.
All right. Thank you, Kenny, Mike, and Steve over there in Houston. Thanks for those words. And now we're going to get back to the action. We're getting some views.
现在我们应该可以，我们应该会准备看一下现场的画面。
And now we're just waiting for it to make its way onto the recovery ship.
Exactly. So now that Dragon has splashed down into the Atlantic Ocean, the recovery team is going to go through a number of steps as we recover the Dragon spacecraft and lift it onto the recovery ship. Now, in case if you're joining us, we'll just go quick, you can see on your screen there a live shot of Dragon recovery, the capsule bobbing in the sea there with the Dragon team working on those recovery operations. In case you are just joining us, the mission has gone very smoothly so far today. Dragon successfully splashed down in the Atlantic Ocean just several minutes ago.
5:45 a.m.
现在看到的是回放录像，今天龙飞船回收的录像。
And about 240 nautical miles away from Cape Canaveral. Approximately 6 hours prior to splashdown, Dragon autonomously undocked from the International Space Station.
今天龙飞船最后降落在大西洋的时间是北京时间晚上9点45分。现在大家看到的是录像回放，在开主伞之前，减速伞已经打开的情况下，然后现在是开主伞的画面。
Earlier this morning, at this point, Dragon was under the 2 drogue chutes, and those were responsible for all of that initial slowing down. And they also were responsible for pulling out the main
replay here. 充气逐渐展开的画面。
Deployed successfully. We heard from Benji and also the teams during the action that they went exactly as planned. Everything kind of happening exactly on the timeline too. But that all came after Dragon successfully re-entered the Earth's atmosphere, and those parachutes were deployed. And now, though, we're on to the final part of Dragon's journey, as it's pretty soon going to get lifted out of the water and placed onto the recovery boat.
看到弹幕里面问为什么 SpaceX 降落伞放侧面，因为正面是对接口，正面的空间被对接口占了，所以它降落伞只能放侧面。
Lovely full parachutes as they are slowing the Dragon capsule down to the Atlantic Ocean.
Yeah, it's already been 45 minutes since that happened.
Wow.
It feels like it was just about 5 minutes ago. But yeah, that splashdown was 5:45 a.m. Pacific, 8:45 a.m. So a little bit later in the morning over there on the East Coast when Dragon splashed down again. Yeah, about 200 or so statues.
现在大家看到的是录像回放，是今天龙飞船穿过大气层下降着陆的录像回放。现在录像回放已经到了主伞打开正在降落的画面。
Around the body, I guess you would say.
Inside the suit, there's a microphone inside as well.
Yeah. So this will give us lots of really cool data about the G-forces and what the test device experienced during launch and docking.
现在左边的画面应该是对，就是已经切到了直播画面。在左边的那个白点就是飞船，然后右边画面看不全的，如果没有认错的话，就是回收船。
You saw earlier that the recovery fast boats went very quickly to the splashdown point. Go Searcher, the main recovery vessel.
现在右边这艘就是回收船，它名字叫 Go Searcher.
In your screen right now. Wow, it's a picture perfect day. So it's.
这是来自回收船上的画面。
Watching as the recovery vessel gets closer to the Dragon.
然后等一下，我们将能看到龙飞船被这艘回收船从大西洋上吊起来的画面。
The safety checks that they do after splashdown, the vehicle itself safed itself as well as soon as it detected that it was in the water, and the team made sure it was safe to approach the Dragon spacecraft.
And then upon that immediate detection of landing, Dragon automatically released all of those main parachutes, and that just prevents the wind from catching them and potentially pulling or dragging the spacecraft across the water. And those parachutes also get recovered. Another one of the
在降落之后，有2艘快艇去收集降落伞来着。
Following that successful parachute cutaway, Dragon automatically saves any of the pyrotechnics still present on the vehicle. And it can also automatically perform a couple of additional minor system configurations. The astronauts, if they were on board, would remain seated. So
如果现在假设飞船上面有航天员的话，这个航天员就现在还在飞船里面坐着，还在座位上坐着，还没有解开安全带。但这是假设情况，而这次飞船上并没有航天员。
Keep the temperatures in check inside the spacecraft. And the communication system on board also remains powered, so the crew still has their two-way
这个时候按道理，飞船里面如果有航天员的话，这个时候航天员还有双向通信，所以他们这会儿就是坐在飞船船舱里面等回收。这会儿飞行员这会儿航天员如果里面有航天员的话，他们还不能开门，因为周围有很多水。 所以他们不能自己开门。
Over 10 minutes for the recovery to complete their safety checks, and they completed their preparation activities. And right now, as we can see, they are making progress toward being able to lift Dragon up and onto the recovery vessel. As part of the preparation for this lift, we saw earlier that a member of the recovery team actually climbed on top of the capsule, and that was in order to attach the Dragon's hoist rings and connect the lifting line. So
然后之前的话，为了吊起这艘飞船，已经有工作人员爬到飞船上面去，就是为了去弄那个就是绑绳子的那个东西。现在是直播，现在大家看到是直播。这边直播的是龙飞船回收第2代载人型龙飞船回收，这是美国太空探索技术公司第1艘载人型龙飞船，它已经完成了它的首飞任务，现在已经着陆在大西洋中间。现在画面左边大家看到那艘飞船，然后右面是去回收那艘飞船的船。然后现在我们就在等真正的最后回收过程，就是回收船会用它船尾上面那个回收装置把这艘飞船吊起来，然后放到船上。
They're on the Go Navigator.
Like we've mentioned before, the ship that you see there is
然后这艘回收船上面是有完整的医疗保障系统。就假设飞船上面装有航天员的话呢，航天员就可以直接在这艘船上面做体检。这样的话就可以确保这个航天员的身体状况，就马上就可以知道。
Whenever we splash down, it might take the crew a couple days to get out and back from the splashdown point, and so the ship is also capable of housing the recovery crew for a couple of weeks, realistically, if absolutely necessary. Obviously, a long time to be on a ship, in my opinion, but it's fully equipped, and I've been on that ship myself, and it's just incredible to me as someone that keeps my eyes towards the sky and not necessarily, ocean sickness. It's just incredible to me that we're able to have a vessel like this in our fleet, really, when you think of the full encapsulation of what a mission requires. It's not just going up, it's coming back down and back onto land safely as well. And this vessel is a great example of how we're able to do that.
现在大家看到的是龙飞船回收画面，龙飞船回收现场。这艘龙飞船的返回舱已经着陆在大西洋中间。然后大家看到画面右边是去捞这艘飞船的船。
And as mentioned just a little while ago, so this is actually a view from the Go Navigator. That's one of the 2 ships that have traveled out to the splashdown zone. One of the NASA personnel on board that ship is Shane Kimbrough, and he's actually the lead for all of the various NASA recovery teams and pretty much responsible for overseeing all the crew's needs and all their recovery, all their quarantine before launch. He likes to say I think he told us they kind of belong to him once they're in quarantine and getting ready. So he's actually joining us now via a satellite phone from that ship. Shane, thanks for calling in real quick. How's everything looking out there with Dragon Recovery?
Hey, Dan. Great to talk to you from the Go Navigator. Everything's going really well. It was just beautiful seeing it come in on the drogues and then the main parachutes and then obviously the splashdown. You guys are probably seeing video now. The Go Searcher is getting pretty close to getting the capsule and getting it on deck.
And so, Shane, what was the trip out there like? I know we're
刚刚听到现场的口令确认，状况良好。刚刚的口令是从旁边的这艘拍摄船，就是名字叫 Go Navigator 这艘拍摄船上传回来的。报告现场状况良好。
The splashdown zone, but we woke up this morning knowing we were only a couple hours away from all the action happening, so that was really cool. And now it's great to be involved in the recovery of Demo 1.
That's awesome to hear. It was one thing for us to be able to watch it from Mission Control. What was it like watching Dragon splash down with your own eyes, Shane?
Absolutely incredible. I mean, there's a lot of excitement building on the boat, the 30 minutes or so prior to entry. And then once, one person saw the drogues open, everybody's yelling and pointing and all excited. So it was really, really neat. And from our perspective, it looked absolutely perfect. So I'm not sure what the data will show otherwise, but it looked really amazing. We have a beautiful day out here, very calm seas, and couldn't ask for better weather.
And so, Shane, obviously you didn't come down in this capsule today, but you have come down in a capsule, but on land. What's this experience being out on the ocean been like? How does that really compare from when you touched down over in Kazakhstan?
Yeah, good question. As we're sitting here talking, it's been, 45, 50 minutes since splashdown, and I'm thinking, you know what, there's a crew in there, and that's a long time to be waiting to get picked up, so we'll tighten up that timeline a bit, just knowing the crew's probably not going to feel very well at this point. And the sooner we can get to them and get them on deck, and then eventually back on land.
现在可以说一下，这一艘飞船上面并没有搭载任何一名真正的宇航员，它只搭载了一个假人。所以现在当然里面没有宇航员会着急，但是呢，现在听现场情况，他们在电话采访一个航天员，然后问他这个时候觉得里面的航天员会是什么感觉？他说这个时候感觉可能不是太好，因为他之前有在哈萨克斯坦着陆的经历。然后这个时候你知道外面有一个团队，但是你就得在飞船里面坐着，然后等回收，这个过程还挺长。所以这个时候航天员的感觉可能确实不是很好。
All right, well, Shane, we'll let you get back to watching all the operations. I know you got a job to do other than talking to us, but I do really
说用飞机调回来的之前，最早美国人搞反回式卫星的时候是用飞机去捞的，是 C130吧，好像是，直接后面拖一个网在空中捞那个飞船的降落伞，特别猛的一个设计。然后到后面的话，像水星号的时候，当时的返回舱也都是由一个直升机过去直接捞起来。但是这么土豪到这个程度的事情，现在不会有了，就只有当年冷战的时候才会那么干。
So you saw a couple of seconds ago the shot on your screen of the back of the boat itself. That is the cradle that you saw. That's what we've been referring to as the nest. It's designed specifically for the Crew Dragon design, and that is exactly where once the lifting arms have lifted the capsule out of the water, and it'll place it back down in that spot, and then that is basically where if there were astronauts on board,
然后现在我们看到的应该马上
they would be egressing from out of the capsule.
应该马上就要看到回收过程了。
Looks like we're getting closer and closer to the capsule.
And it should be in range soon. As we've talked about, it's expected to be about an hour or a little bit less.
也就是大概在降落不到1个小时的时候，这艘船将会被装到回收船上面。
as quickly as possible, and then you can actually start take the boat and start heading back into port. And if you missed some of the data earlier in the show, they are a little over 200 nautical miles out to sea right now, which is why we're hearing it's going to take them about 30 hours to come back.
现在这艘回收船离海岸线的距离大概是200海里多一点。这么远的距离，这艘船要开回来要开30多个小时。当然这只是无人船的情况。如果以后的载人飞船不会把着陆场放到离海岸这么远的位置。
So if for any reason they needed to get the crew back much quicker, they could actually airlift them out and then bring them right back to dry land there in Florida. But the gap continuing to close.
现在我们看到飞船离回收船的距离还在靠近。
But everything looking great so far. We should have that Dragon on the boat in just a little bit. Yeah.
然后现在大家看到的是美国继航天飞机之后第一艘可以载人的飞船回收画面。现在这里是直播画面，来自大西洋中间， 画面中间看到那艘飞船是美国新一代的载人飞船，由 SpaceX 美国太空探索技术公司开发。然后它刚刚完成了在国际空间站大约1个星期的任务，现在已经返回地球，并且降落在了大西洋中间。然后现在正在看到的画面就是一艘回收船正在准备去捞这个飞船。这个飞船的话，关于它的发射时候的情况，大家可以去翻我们直播间的录像。在发射的时候，我们也有做转播，包括之后其他的一些比较有意思的发射，我们也会做转播。然后除此之外呢，我们在线天文直播间致力于给大家带来有趣的天文现象的直播。喜欢的可以点一波关注，也可以关注一下我们的微信公众号或者微博，名字和头像都和我们的直播间一模一样。可以加一下我们的室友群，群号在屏幕下方滚动字幕里面有。然后现在今天的这个回收任务到这儿已经差不多了，咱们是船头方向，这个方向看不到飞船，因为回收装置在船尾。然后等一下，我们现在等待的就是最后这艘船用回收装置把飞船吊起来，并且放到船上的那一刻。好了，现在看到应该是船和飞船在互相调整位置，因为看到船的推进器或者船的螺旋桨刚刚启动了一下，翻出了水花。现在在画面右边可以看到回收装置已经放下去，放到了回收位置。大家注意看画面右边回收装置的状态。现在我们看到这个回收装置已经放下去，放到回收状态。然后飞船上已经有一个工作人员在飞船上正在操作，应该是把起吊的这个缆绳绑到或者叫固定到飞船上面。这么小的一个飞船，大家不要觉得这个飞船小啊，这个飞船实打实的能装7个人的这个飞船。 联盟发射的直播可能会稍微有点尴尬，因为联盟飞船也有一个问题，俄罗斯的发射直播信号从来都不稳。之前尝试过直播俄罗斯的发射信号都不稳，所以那个挺难办。
Teams have already lowered the vessel's hydraulic lift mechanism down into the water as they're getting ready to bring that Dragon spacecraft up into the on-deck translation system that SpaceX decided to call the Nest. And Dragon's going to remain in that nest during its journey back to the coast.
大家看到飞船上有人跳海了。
Port Canaveral, Florida. Again, we're expecting that.
没有，其实只是那个工作人员他干完了活之后回到快艇上而已。
Take them that long to make their way back because they're a little over 200 nautical miles out to sea. But for crewed missions, as we've said, the landing zone is only going to be a couple hours ride away from port. And that's just so SpaceX can quickly get those returning astronauts back to dry land, where things are a little bit stable. And after you've been in microgravity for about 6 months, your feet will probably appreciate that. The capsule pretty soon though is going to get
大家起吊应该马上就会开始，就回收装置会把飞船吊起来，并且放到后甲板上的这块东西上面，然后它这艘飞船就会一直放在这块东西上面，并且就一直在那儿，一直到它回到港口。
We're almost at the point where the recovery teams would be assisting the crew to get out of Dragon. So we're almost there.
但大家不要走开，盯紧屏幕，起吊应该随时开始。
In aerospace terms, we call that the crew's egress from the spacecraft. And under the typical circumstances, the SpaceX recovery team is going to be helping out the crew of Dragon within 1 hour of landing.
Yeah, so you can see on your screen there, Dragon is getting closer and closer to the back end of the recovery ship. Just a minute or two ago, we saw the crew member that was responsible for attaching all the appropriate rigging to the vessel jump off the capsule and back into the water. Right now, we're just waiting for Dragon to lift up and out of the water and into the nest.
And there it goes.
So there facing us is what we call the side hatch.
现在我们看到的这一面就是侧舱门的那一面。如果这艘船上装有航天员的话，那么航天员出舱就会从侧面的这个舱门出来。这个舱门也就是之前大家看对接直播的时候看到的那个在飞船侧面舱壁上的那个方形舱门。
Yeah, and we got a beautiful shot there. Now the hydraulic lift is coming back towards us, and it is preparing to lower the Dragon capsule into its nest. Like we said, we are treating this demonstration mission with the recovery operations as if there were actual astronauts on board. And of course, before we were would be.
然后这个时候，如果假设里面有航天员需要开舱的话，他们先要做的第一步工作就是确认这艘飞船里面的舱内的压力跟大气压力已经平衡。
Remaining folks that we have here on the SpaceX team outside of mission control are cheering with the placement of Dragon into the nest there, as you can see. You might also notice that the thermal protective system that we have on the outside of Dragon, if you were watching during launch, was a pristine white.
而且大家可以注意到，就是这艘飞船外面的隔热层，它在飞船上天的时候还是洁白的，然后等到返回的时候，在经过了载入大气层之后的那些等离子体的烧灼之后，已经变成了这种颜色。
We're bringing the Dragon down, and we are obviously recovering our rockets, and it's just really cool to see that evidence of return back to Earth is really wonderful.
Yeah, and we had fantastic luck with the weather today. The sea states were relatively calm by all reports, only a couple of clouds dotting the sky. Had great views of Dragon all the way down under its parachutes, even before its parachutes. We saw it just after that entry interface, and we were getting some really cool views from the WB-57 airplane. But with Dragon back on the boat, that's about it for us. We're just now at about the end.
然后到这一步的话，整个龙飞船的这次任务可以算是已经结束了。
The astronauts getting out of Dragon, and those medical teams would be standing by
然后如果飞船上有航天员的话，这个时候就是做一监一保的时间，或者就是体检的时间。但是因为没有航天员，所以当然就没有体检的工作了。但是该拿的数据还是要从飞船上拿下来的。
But this mission started just about 6 days ago with that early morning launch on March 2nd. We had a successful approach and docking to the International Space Station, did all of the demonstrations as expected for the mission. It was docked for the last 5 days. They tested Dragon.
然后现在主持人在回顾这次任务的状况，就是哪天发射，哪天对接，然后往国际空间站送400磅货物，然后又带回来多少磅货物，就是整个的这个过程。
At 8:45 a.m. Eastern Time, 5:45 a.m. for us over here on the Pacific Coast. So it was really a fantastic mission. It's been a huge honor for me to be out here at Hawthorne to share this with everybody.
男主播电脑上的国旗，没有发现那就是国际空间站那10几个国家的国旗吗？包括那张图的中间就是国际空间站。
To the International Space Station.
Yeah. So as Dan said, it's been an incredible honor to share this mission with the public. All the teams are incredibly thrilled with the success of this demonstration mission, which of course paves the way for our first crewed flight later this year. Be sure to follow along with SpaceX and NASA on our social media for updates and next steps on the Commercial Crew program. Until next time, see you then.